Good morning, and welcome to another episode of the Good Morning Minute, where we start the day with purpose, passion, and a little bit of power. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, and today's conversation is part of a special series in partnership with the Empower Her Steps virtual conference, a movement rooted in helping women rise, heal, and walk boldly into the life God has designed for them. Our mission is simple but powerful, empowering life's purpose, because we believe when a woman finds clarity in her calling, everything changes for her family, her community, and generations to come. So friends, grab you a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and get ready to be uplifted as we dive into real stories, honest lessons, and bold steps towards purpose with our guest today. And our guest is Melanie. Melanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Melanie, why don't you just take a moment and just share a little bit about yourself with our listeners today?
I will do. Thank you. So, my name is Melanie Stevens. I'm from the UK and I'm a spiritual teacher. So, I teach a few subjects online, including energy healing. As a Reiki master, I decided to teach energy healing to people a little bit more broadly than Reiki so that it was accessible to everybody, so that everybody could use it at least to a basic level to heal themselves. I teach crystal healing, past life healing, intuitive tarot. I have a course navigating people through the spiritual awakening. So I'm very much focused around teaching people to empower themselves, to use their intuition, to follow their dreams, to heal themselves from anything that might be holding them back and that kind of thing.
Wonderful. Well, we look forward to getting to know you a little bit better. And on our conversation today will be more about you and kind of how you found this journey and this calling for yourself. So before we get started, I do like to ask just a fun, light, fun icebreaker question before we get started. What is one thing that always makes you smile?
My dog.
Oh, yes.
Without doubt, she's beautiful, she's goofy, she's fun. And I just look at her and yeah, I smile.
Wonderful. I have two cats and one right now that is wanting to be on a TV or on the show. So I understand loving your fur babies for sure. All right. Well, let's just go ahead and jump into the heart of our conversation. And I'm going to ask you, what was the moment of challenge or pain in your life and how did it impact you?
So for me, I mean, there's been the most key moment for me. I was 28 and I had a bit of an emotional nervous breakdown where
Mm.
I just fell into a bit of a pit of despair, to be honest. I couldn't face life anymore and it got really bad. The worst I had was when I just didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to face the world. And I saw a life coach who actually really changed my life with the things she taught me about understanding emotions, understanding myself and the things that had happened to me that I would keep replaying in my head, how we just torture ourselves with our own minds, really. She was the catalyst for my spiritual awakening, I would say, this lady. Introduced me to lots of wonderful teachers like Eckhart Tolle, taught me about being present with my breath, taught me about how to release really overwhelming emotions that would completely impact my life. So, by learning the modalities she taught me and then implementing them, it wasn't an overnight fix, but I did get myself back on track. And actually, that opened a few doors for me as well into spirituality, which I'd kind of delved into a little bit as a child and then I didn't bother with for quite a few years. And it got me onto what I call my path. It got me to find my purpose. But as is often the case, the catalyst for finding your true purpose and your joy is pain. It's only when we're in the dark, I guess, that we try to find the light.
And that's so true. I often say it takes like a rock bottom moment or something that just really you're at that just point, like it's almost a pivoting point in life where you're trying to discover, okay, do I continue to keep going down this road where it's ending, or do I change something? And what does that need to look like? So then you almost open yourself up to answers that you don't have, but you seek out that, whether it is, prayer, meditation, but you just kind of open yourself up to like looking at outside of yourself and outside of your circumstances, which is unfortunate and why I like to have conversations and people share their stories, because if we can help somebody before that rock bottom moment, let's do so, for sure. So let's dive into that awakening for yourself, Melanie. And what was it like? So when did you realize, like, you know what, I can turn this into something good?
I think when I started to realize how I could feel when I got out of my head, when I started to realize that I'd got this incessant, quite negative, quite limiting voice that wasn't who I am. And I'd always identified with that voice like many of us do. So I felt like the voice telling me I wasn't good enough, I wasn't capable of doing anything amazing with my life, why can't I do this, why can't I do that, was a stuck record that I had the power to change. Not only did I realize I could change my thoughts, but I also learned how to drop them altogether and to just be with my soul and kind of almost get out of the human element, if you like, almost kind of step back and realize that I was running on autopilot and my thoughts were running on autopilot and my behavior was as a result of my thoughts. And when I stepped away from that, if you like, everything became a bit more peaceful and calm. And I felt this inner peace, just like a little split second of it. It wouldn't last very long, but then I'd think, I need to find that again. And the way I find that is through stopping the the programming of my mind from just being on repeat. So I feel like the accepting the presence of who I really am made me question all of my beliefs that I held before about that voice in the head being me. So, like I mentioned, Eckhart Tolle, for me, he was great. There's lots of other people out there that I've read books from and followed over the years, but I found his teachings just very profound and yet very simple. And I think often we overcomplicate things because we use our minds way too much. So, coming back to the breath, coming back to the stillness, and just doing something very simple like observing nature in my garden, that was my way to peace. And
Mm,
that was really got me on the road to then starting to wonder, okay, well, why do we live our lives like this? Why do we create so much misery for ourselves? And through asking those questions, I got the answers.
mm. And that's and you've just articulated that so beautifully. But it's so true because we're on autopilot. I think when I started doing my healing work and working with my coach, um, I remember one day catching my thoughts right as I was coming out of sleep because they start to race. Um, and so I was awakened, just through the practice of meditation and prayer and breathing and all of those things. So I was able to be more aware of my thoughts as they were coming in, even out of sleeping, and I was amazed by it. I remember talking to my coach about it, but it was so wonderful to capture it and to just harness that energy and bring it back into your center and just go, okay, now this is what I want to think about. I'm waking up. I want to start my day with positive energy and be refreshed and all of those things. I don't want to worry about all the other things that need to I don't need to be worrying about. That will just drain my energy. And so that was a good eye opener for me. And so I can just imagine what it was like for yourself as you're stepping into the practice of it all. And so, what were some of those things that did help you kind of heal and grow in this moment that you're building something for yourself?
So there was a few things actually, and I guess we're all different. People resonate with different things, but I was using something called the emotional freedom technique for a while, which is also known as tapping, where you kind
Mm-hmm.
of tap on various pulse points. That was quite good for me. I enjoyed that. Something very simple called 7-11 breathing, where you inhale to the count of seven and you exhale to the count of 11 through the mouth. And I realized, I thought, surely just breathing slowly doesn't really do much, but it really does. It has such a profound impact because it has a physiological effect on the nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, which actually initiates that rest and digest state. So it gets you out of that adrenaline fueled kind of panic that we can get into sometimes. So even just the breath work alone with nothing else, that had a really powerful impact. And then other things that took a little bit more work because they had to become a new habit, catching those thoughts, recognizing when I catastrophize, which I realized I did a lot. Journaling, writing it all down. Okay, what are my thoughts like in the last 10 minutes? Were they helpful? If not, what could I replace them with? And getting into that habit of replacing the thoughts with more positive ones. And then that progressed into things like having Reiki sessions, which is why I decided to learn that for myself. Even sitting and holding a crystal, just how did that feel? How did that affect my body, my physiology? And I kind of use a combination of things now. Not all at the same time, depends how I'm feeling. I'd kind of pick one and work with that. But there's many things out there if people are needing to heal. There are so many different ways that you can heal, and you'll be drawn to something. So I would always recommend with people, go with your gut instinct. What do you feel is kind of calling you? And give that a try because there's so many things that we can use to help ourselves. There is no need to suffer.
Mhm. And that's so good too, because healing is a journey for everyone. Everybody has their own personal situations and stuff, and it's not a cookie cutter situation. So you highlight several different things just for yourself, but I think that's the beauty in finding, those different modalities that are out there just to kind of build a toolbox for yourself, because you might be struggling in an area of your life where you're like, okay, journaling isn't going to cut it today. So I've got to shift and do something else. Because life is very unpredictable. And so you don't know what's coming at you. But if you have a toolbox of different things, then you can reach in there and pull out what works for you in that particular situation and just kind of move on with, life and hitting the goals that you desire for that day, and overcoming whatever situation is trying to cause challenge for sure. So I'm curious, Melanie, how has all of this kind of shaped the person you are today?
I mean, it's had a huge impact. I'm such a different person to who I was, 20 years ago, when I started on this journey. And it's opened doors for me. It's not only impacted me in the moment, but it's when you start to go within and you start to heal and you start to ask those questions about, well, why am I feeling like this? And why does my body react like this? And why am I thinking this? New doors open. And because like attracts like with the law of attraction, when we're open to new things coming in, new people, new conversations, new books, new authors, people recommend things to you, you find a group somewhere, or you make a new friend who can teach you something, life brings these things to you almost miraculously. So the journey doesn't stop. You don't heal yourself and say, oh, there we go. I'm fully healed and I have no work to do. It would be lovely if that was the case, but it's not. And that's okay because we want the growth. There's so much pleasure in growing and challenging ourselves and developing that I don't think it really ever ends. But it's interesting to watch when you change on the inside, watch what changes on the outside because it all starts from within anyway. And, I would say don't underestimate the impact you can have on your own life and your own reality by taking those steps to work on your inner self.
Mm-hmm. And that's beautifully said, because everything begins with you, anyways, right? So, like, I talk about catching my thoughts before I even start my day and really harnessing what is it that I want to do today? Because again, so that's just an example of how it works from inside out. And so if I want to start my day with positive um, energy and just positive ideas and just that positive vibe, I'm going to start with first understanding what that means for me in that moment. So waking up and doing my morning prayers and doing my meditation and affirmations, you got to put it in there, because like you mentioned before, all of that inner chatter that you had, just talking about how you're unworthy and you're not enough and all of these things, you can purge that out of you, but you've got to replace it with something else, because if not, um, these things start to sprout up again, and then it's just a cycle that you find yourself in. So I think that's so beautiful that you say that. So let me ask you then, Melanie, if someone were maybe in a situation similar to yourself, like where they can't get out of bed and they are just kind of going, okay, I don't know what the next step is for me. Here I am again. They're in that in between. What kind of advice would you give that person?
I would say the first thing that's for me the most important is to not suffer in silence and don't think that you can't reach out to somebody because there's always somebody that you can talk to. And I think there is a misperception of holding everything in is somehow strength, and it really isn't. It's actually really unhealthy, very damaging. It's not about being brave and going it alone because you need support when you're feeling like that. And, now I'm further down the line, I'm able to use my own toolbox to help myself. But I didn't years ago. I had to take that first step to actually get that support from somebody else. Now it's a different situation. So there are so many different avenues people can use online. We've got so much information at our fingertips these days, and we didn't years ago. So it should be fairly easy to find somebody or something that speaks to you. And if you're not sure where to go and you're in a bit of confusion about, well, I don't know who to ask, put your thoughts out to the universe and ask for help because something will come in. Somebody might recommend somebody, or it might come through a friend of a friend, like it did with me. But put the thoughts out there. I need some help from somebody, and let be open to what comes in. And don't miss an opportunity by focusing on, well, I'm expecting a coach to ring me up. It could be a friend that you have a conversation with, and that might change everything because they might share something with you that's really impactful. So be open to how that support comes in, but you must ask for it.
I like that too, because often when I work with the children that I work with in the child welfare system, um, they're like, you're just not helping me, or you're not doing this and doing that. And I'm like, well, let's really look at this, because help doesn't look like the way you're wanting it to look like. It comes in different forms. And so just putting it out there, because we do this already. We already do this with our negative chatter. Like, we put negative things out there. And so when something doesn't go our way, or we don't get this promotion, we just take that and we internalize it to continue to feed in that thought of unworthiness, or I'm not good enough, and that's why I didn't get the job promotion and stuff. So if you were to change that dialogue for yourself and go, okay, I'm looking for this. This is what I'm looking for. Maybe it's a coach, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's whatever, that help that we're seeking. You'll be looking for it. And so when you find it, then you're like, okay, yes, this is the help that I need. I need to receive that. Because it works that way. And so I think that's beautiful that you say those things. Um, so Melanie, what does living with purpose look like for you now?
So it's doing something that brings me joy. I would say if something feels joyful, that's my purpose. And that might not always be like work. I think when we think about purpose, we automatically think, oh, it's my job, it's my work, it's what I do. But that can also be your hobbies, your family, your back garden, your favorite walk. If you're feeling joyful, that is your purpose and that's what you're meant to be doing in that moment.
I love it. And so as we start coming towards the end of our conversation, Melanie, I do have a question that I ask many of my guests on the show, and that's one of legacy and impact. If today were your last day, what would you want to be remembered for?
I would like to be remembered for hopefully helping people and inspiring people to be able to help themselves. I'm very much a believer in empowerment. So I hope people might listen to me, take one of my courses, and empower themselves to heal and start their healing journey.
I love it. And my final question, Melanie, is if you could leave maybe a bit of truth or a word of encouragement to someone out there today listening who's still trying to figure out their life purpose, what would it be?
So we have an inner compass, which is called our intuition. That will never, ever let you down. And if you're struggling to find purpose in any area of your life, you might be using your mind, your human mind too much and not listening to that intuition. So if you can silence the mind for a few minutes, Let your intuition talk to you about where to go, what doors to open, who to speak to, and just allow that to come through. When we get stuck in the head, we make not always the best decisions. So the
Mhm.
intuition will always guide you and lead you to finding purpose in all areas of your life.
And I think that's a big, big freebie for those that are listening because we will always rationalize something that we want. So let me give an example. In relationships. We see all the red flags. We see it through our intuition. Like this doesn't sound right or whatnot. But the person you may be very attracted to that person. You may be like, well, no, there's these other things. And so through your mind, you're going to rationalize the red flags away until you're in that relationship. And then it's, going crazy. And then you're like, man, I'm losing all this time and investing in a relationship that I know I don't want. So just kind of an easy example there to think about. But I think that's beautifully said as well. Well, Melanie, if someone's out there listening and they're like, you know what, I'd really like to work with her or just get in contact with you, how can they do so?
So the best way would be through my website, which is melanie-stevens.com, and Stevens has a V.
Wonderful. All right. Well, Melanie, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your heart, your story, and your light with us today. Conversations like this remind us that purpose isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, growing through the things that we go through, and trusting that every step matters. Here on the Good Morning Minute and through the Empower Her Steps movement, we believe every woman has a calling worth discovering and a voice worth using. So wherever you are today, friend, remember your purpose is powerful and you're not walking alone. So until next time, keep rising, keep trusting, keep walking boldly into the life God has designed for you. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.